Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a spin-off of the lukewarmly received Borderlands 3. It makes great strides in the villain that isn't incredibly annoying department, which plagued the previous title for me. And if you either enjoy or aren't too put off by her humor, there is great fun to have here. That fun, as always, comes, of course, through the up to 4-player co-op in this Dungeons & Dragons-inspired looter-shooter. It is $10 more than its mainline predecessor on the new generation of consoles, though. So let's take a journey through the mind of Tiny Tina and see if it's worth your hard-earned cash in the XboxEra review of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. You are the newbie and playing your first game of Bunkers and Badasses, aka D&D, hosted by the titular Tiny Tina, who is very lonely. A ship, though, has recently crashed near her thanks to the terrible piloting of Valentine, voiced by Andy Samberg, who is joined by his robot companion Fret, voiced by Wanda Sykes. After using an exhaustive and quite impressive character creation toolset, you begin your quest against Will Arnett's Dragon Lord. I will do my best to keep it spoiler-free, but just know things do not go Tina's way, despite her being in control of the game board. Over 30 or so hours, you'll journey through the Wonderlands, which are a series of huge zones interconnected by real-life D&D-inspired overworld game board set pieces. Various dungeons, side quests, and random encounters abound as you work for Queen Buttstallion and her people. I found the characters, writing, story, and most especially the protagonist better than Borderlands 3. The Dragon Lord is both far less obtrusive and annoying as a foe than the twins were. You'll see the D&D style takes on many of Borderlands series regulars. This could have felt over-the-top fanservice-y, but it was handled well and fit thematically. That D&D inspiration is everywhere, from class setups to how your gear works. Instead of grenades now, you get spellbooks that offer up a far greater variety and are damned fun to use. The randomization and procedural gear generation is here as well, and you'll slowly unlock more item slots to further customize your classes. There's a really fun mechanic that opens up a few hours into your playthrough that helps mix things up rather nicely. I do recommend experimenting with the classes as they can play quite differently, and I found the Spell Shot far more fun solo, but the Berserker great in groups. The enemy variety is classic Borderlands, with a high fantasy twist to match the rest of the game. If you enjoyed Borderlands 3, and you're looking for something only a little different overall, then you'll have a great time. If that title did not hit for you though, or you're simply not a fan of Tiny Tina, or the writing in the series, then know that this is $10 more, and it's pretty much an offshoot of the same thing. That price is a bit of a sticking point for me, as this is obviously a smaller game in most ways in comparison to Borderlands 3 itself. Costing 10 more for the Series X and S versions feels like they did it simply because they can. For review purposes, they gave us the $90 version with a few extra weapons, skins, and the Season Pass. It feels to me like if you are a fan of classic Borderlands, and you know what you're in for, then there's probably not much reason to not go for that everything included edition. The gameplay looks and feels as good as ever on the series consoles, with the default graphical mode being Resolution, which still targets 60 frames per second, and how I recorded most of my footage for this review. Performance, though, aims higher, and felt fantastic with my variable refresh rate enabled monitor and how I played the game when not recording footage. You will see a noticeable resolution drop when going to performance, but the smooth feeling aim made it worth it, and it definitely looks better than it did in Borderlands 3. The biggest change gameplay-wise is losing grenades and gaining spellbooks. I loved the system, and my time as a spell shot where I could equip 2 spells at once was an absolute blast. There are a wide variety of spells on hand, and customizing my preferred playstyle around them was tons of fun. This is a title made to be played repeatedly as you push harder and harder content with randomly dropped items that you attempt to make a dream build out of. This is 100% a medievalish Borderlands, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. There really isn't much new here, for fans of the series, but it's well polished and plays great. You will want to focus on side content occasionally though, as I found my progression halted multiple times by high-level enemies that stomped me if I tried to only run main quests. The music is quite different from past titles as well, and it fits. I particularly enjoyed the somber-stringed overworld music as I moved from area to area, punching rocks, avoiding enemies, and clearing out dungeon after dungeon. The voice acting is more of a mixed bag, with Tina being her usual self, which can be quite divisive among players. Wanda Sykes and Andy Samberg's characters talk a lot, and they're both well done. Will Arnett's Dragonlord isn't great, but it's far better than the recent villains, and I grew to like the actual character quite a bit as the game went along. Cooperative play worked well once the Shift servers were actually up, and it features full crossplay between Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. That should be the standard for games like this moving forward, and I was really happy to see it. I ran into no major bugs while playing, though the long voice dialogue sections would frequently get cut off as I crossed an event trigger. That led to me missing out on conversations that I had been enjoying, though occasionally those conversations can go on for far too long. Often you're left standing around and waiting for a few minutes as discussions play out before you can advance, with no way of skipping ahead. It has been one of the series' biggest weaknesses in the past, and it's in full effect here. In conclusion, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands does not try to reinvent the Borderlands wheel. Instead, it molds it into something fresh enough to satisfy fans of the series that are simply looking for more. Just know that if you do not like Tina, then this is not the game for you, as there is a whole bonkload of her. If that $70 price tag on series consoles doesn't scare you off, and you have a few friends to play with, then you will definitely enjoy this expertly crafted schluter. Thank you as always for watching, and if you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps us grow, and you can visit us at patreon.com/XboxEra if you really want to support us. And we'll see you next time.